Hello, and thanks for joining me today. We've got a cross mandala today. It has 5 layers. This one has 6, and you'll see why in my video. I'm going to show you how to make it step by step, including this lovely ribbon here, okay, which takes a little bit of work and design space. Now, I've made this cross for Easter, but you can definitely easily use it for things like christenings, baptisms, and I'll show you how to edit the text here so you can add a name or any other saying that you'd like to do. So let's head over to Design Space and get started. All right, let's get started in Design Space. So once you have the file downloaded from the blog, let's go to Upload and upload the image. So you want to find the file called Cross Combine. It should be the only file there. When you open that up, it is a solid color here, but I mean that won't affect too much. You'll see when we open it that all the layers are there. So let's save this and open it up. Now it is pretty massive when you first load it. The first cross I did was actually a height of 10.5 because I wanted to print it on 8.5 by 11. So one of the first things we can do is resize it so at least it's a little bit more manageable. I would resize it to anything smaller that you can fit on the screen, and then we can resize it again later if you need to adjust it for your cutting size. If you're going to be cutting 12 by 12, then you can probably do that after we fix up the file first, and then we'll cut it by 12 by 12. But for purposes of this demo, I am going to shrink it down quite a bit. So let's do a height of 9, so we can get a better look of that. And you'll see on the side here under the layers tab all the different layers here. Okay, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cross layers, and then we've got 2 for the ribbon here, and we'll show you how to utilize that. So let's color our layers so we can see what it looks like. Okay, so on the 5th layer here, I am going to color this layer a light pink, and let's see, layer 4 we'll do a nice yellow. Yep. Layer 3, let's do a darker color. Layer 2, Okay, we'll just do that just so you can see the different colors there, okay? So you can get a rough idea of what the cross is going to look like. So now we have all the colors that we've selected. You should try to match these colors to the cardstock that you are cutting on. When we actually go to make it, they're going to sort the mats not by layer but by color, okay? Which is going to be very difficult for you to figure out what layers you're cutting. So do it by color. That way it makes it much easier for you to load the mats into your machine when you're doing that cutting process. And you also get to preview what it looks like, right? So you can see exactly how it's going to look when you go to layer it. And I think I'm actually going to use a lighter color here. Now, if you go to advanced, you can adjust the colors. So let's say my yellow is much lighter than that, which it is. I'm going to select that for that. And my gray is actually more closer to a tinted mauve-ish color. Okay. So yeah, so that's the cross that we have there. Now let's work with the ribbon, okay? So right now the entire file is grouped. What that means is when you're dragging it around, all the different layers aren't separate. So if I clicked on this layer and moved it around, it's not leaving the entire cross here, okay? But we do want to play with the ribbon, so we're going to ungroup everything. So click on this button here, it's ungroup. And now you'll see there's all these different layers. Okay, so for example, if I wanted to move this layer around, now I can. So let's look at our ribbon. The top layer of this ribbon should be a little bit lighter. I'm gonna go with a white color, and the bottom of the ribbon, I would tint it just slightly darker than whatever color the top ribbon is. So if this color was, let's say, pink, okay, I would tint this just a darker pink. And the best way you can do that is to click on this layer, pick that exact same color you just did, go to advanced, and it gives you that color. Okay, so now you can just drag it slightly darker, and you'll see that now it's tinted. Okay, you can't see a big difference in that one, but let's make it darker. There we go. See, and that gives it more dimension, so it gives that shaded look. Okay, but I'm gonna go with white just for the purposes of this demo. Let's just stick with that gray. Okay, now as you saw in the completed product, we had the word blessed on it. So let's look at how we can actually make that. Okay, that wasn't part of the SVG file that you downloaded. It's something that you can add, because I figure that, you know, you can use this to add your child's name for a christening, or if you wanted to put a different phrase. I know I've seen a lot of people put, you know, he is risen on the banner. So depending on what you'd like on that banner, feel free to edit it using the same process. If you choose you don't like the banner, then all you have to do is just delete these two layers, and you don't have to use them. Anyways, let's take a look. So we want blessed, okay? So typically when you write a word, it's going to default into a straight line, okay? It's going to default into a straight line. Design Space has a curve text function, okay? So if you go to curve right here, if you go to curve, you can adjust this text in two ways, okay? But as you see on our banner here, we're looking for more of a swish kind of look, a wave, okay? So let's see how we're gonna do that. What you wanna do is take your word, and once you figured out whatever word or phrase you want to use, what we're going to do for this banner is duplicate this layer. Okay, so we can duplicate over here. And you're going to put the first half of this word on one layer, and the second half of this word on the other layer. Okay. And now we're going to curve this one. So let's curve this. We need to go this way a little bit. And we need to curve this one the other way slightly. Nope, it's still this way. All right. And let's rotate this. This needs a little bit more of a curve. It's more this way. Okay, so you're gonna play with that, okay? Now what I'm gonna do, if you click on a layer and hold Shift and click on your other layer, okay, it'll select both of them. So you'll notice now that both layers are selected. So the reason why I'm doing that is because I'm actually going to start moving over to the ribbon so I can better adjust for this curve, okay? Now I'm going to use a font called King Basil, okay? It is not in the Cricut fonts, Okay, so up here you'll see that you have Cricut fonts and you'll have system fonts. System fonts are fonts that you have downloaded. I might do another video at some point to show the difference and how you can, add more fonts to your library. But for now, just know that Cricut fonts are here, and system fonts, which is any font existing on your computer, is on a different tab here. Now, the reason why that's important is because the majority of the Cricut fonts cost money. And I already pay for fonts, so I'm not going to buy a Cricut font just for Cricut. Anyways, so here's the system fonts. I'm going to search my system fonts, and it's called King Basil. Okay, it's a nice script font. It used to be free. It is no longer free. I think it's $15, but guys, this is a really nice font. It's only $15. I will link it in the comments down below, so take a look at that. I use this font a lot, so yeah, let's take a look. So blessed is what we want in King Basil. All right, now the next thing I'm going to do before I touch anything else is you'll notice that the kerning, so kerning, what that means is how far the letters are from each other. Okay, it's going to cause some problems for us when we go to cut this file out. Okay, we want this word as one cohesive word, so when we cut it out, we just slap it on. We don't have to adjust each individual letter. So we're going to adjust the kerning before we do anything else as well, because this will change as we change our curve. So let's adjust this. The kerning will be under letter space, which is this option right here. So let's adjust that to -1 and see how that looks. That's much better. Yeah, and you'll notice now that the letters are actually connected and touching each other. Okay, so same thing here. Let's make an adjustment there. And see, this one was not enough. Now I'm going to zoom in because I want to make sure my letters are actually touching. Okay, so down here you can zoom in. And I'm just going to move this. Oops. And adjust this from here. That's better. And then we can attach it like that. Okay, so once again, I'm going to hold shift and click on the other layer. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit, and I'm going to move this over. Okay, now right now it's too big, so let's adjust the size. Let's try 50. And let's just see how that fits. So that's still too big. Let's do 44. Still a bit too big. 36. Let's do 32. All right, so 32 looks to be pretty good. So let's shrink this down here. Awesome. Yeah, so now you can see the curve a little bit better. So we did a decent job initially with that. I'm just going to turn that one. Let's turn this one. Let's move this here. And I'm just going to fix this curve here. A little bit less curve. There we go. All right, let's go with that. Now, one important thing before we proceed, okay? Once you are happy with your text, and only once you are happy with your text, because you don't want to have to go back. It's going to be a pain in the butt, and you're going to regret it later because you might have to just recreate this entire text again. Okay, so the next thing you want to do, once you have decided that you're happy with the text and this is what you want, okay, you're going to select the layers and you're going to go down here and you are going to click on Weld. Okay, now basically what that does, it's taken the font and it's created it into an image. Okay, so now this is no longer a font that you can edit the text. This is now essentially an SVG type image that you are now using. So you can readjust this, but in terms of adjusting the angles or the font type, right? The font type, you can't do that anymore. So you want to be happy with your font choice before you hit that button, okay? But the reason why this is important is because if you do not weld, what's going to happen is Cricut is going to cut out each letter individually, and we don't want that, right? We don't want that. We want this cut out as one piece. So make sure you hit that button before you go to cut. Now, I'm going to leave my banner as is, but one thing I do want to show you is, let's say you wanted to cut the word out of the banner, okay? Now, I don't recommend that with this particular font. You pretty much would need to use a stencil font, okay? So any font that essentially has connecting pieces for things like the D or the B, okay? Because what's going to happen right now is if you cut this out of the ribbon, this component of the D is going to be missing, as well as this E is going to be missing, and etc. Unless you keep those pieces and transfer it in the transfer tape process, okay? But I don't want to use transfer tape for this project. It's actually not going to work for this project because of the way the banner is kind of put together. So I wouldn't recommend that. But if you decide you do want to use a stencil font and you want a cutout rather than gluing something to the banner, let me show you how we're going to do that. Okay, so if you click on Blessed, this is the top layer here that we're going to be cutting it out of. Okay, so you can make everything else disappear if you want. It doesn't matter. If you click on the eye here, it makes it all disappear. So we can only see this. So what you're going to do is select this layer and select this layer. Once again, you hold Shift and you're going to slice. Okay. Now what that did is created all these layers, but the only one we care about is this bottom layer here. Okay. This bottom layer here is the one that will cut out that word. Okay, so you can pretty much delete these. I'm just gonna hide them so I can show you what this looks like. Oops. All right, see, so that's a cutout. Oh. Yeah, that's fine. So that's the cutout version there, and I'm actually going to remove this back ribbon so you can see that it is actually cut out. See? So you can see all the different colors underneath there. Now, when assembling this, I'll show you this later. When assembling this, you can choose to actually put this back ribbon piece on a different layer. So let's say we wanted to put this under that layer there. So then these layers are going to show up, right? And then you're going to attach that ribbon differently. But we're not going to be doing that for this particular project, but I will show you that when we actually assemble. So I'm going to go back. You can hit the back button. I'm using the quick key. I'm on a Mac, so I'm using the quick key Command Z. But on a Windows computer, I believe you can do Control Z, and it will go back. So let's quickly go back. All right. Okay, so I think we are ready to cut. So I'm going to show you, we're going to go to Make It. Okay, we're going to go to Make It, and it's going to sort all of these by color, right? So we've got all these different layers here, and you'll notice once again, it is not sorted in layer order. So it's not doing layer 1 first and layer 2 second. It is sorting it by color. Okay, so it's doing these gray tones first, going into black, going into pinks, going into yellows. So just keep that in mind. It's great once again, because then all you're going to do is grab your cardstock in all these colors, because you've already picked your colors, right? So you say, okay, I already have this tone of gray. I already have this black. And you're just going to grab those colors. And then as it's cutting and you're loading the next mat, you already have the colors ready. So I usually just grab all the cardstock that I'm using. I sort them in the color order that it's going to cut. And then I kind of just stay by the machine and keep cutting until it's pretty much done. One thing to note though is that for these smaller cuts, like this banner is just a gray. I'm not going to use a full 8.5 by 11 for this. I'm going to go through my scrap pile and find a piece that will fit this and just kind of put that on. Same thing with this white banner, and same thing with the black text. Okay. The black text, remember that was the blessed word that we had there. I'm actually going to print this on vinyl. I have tried printing this on cardstock, and if you are printing if you are cutting this cross small, and by small I mean I cut this cross at a height of 10.5, okay, 10.5 inches, because I was cutting at 8.5 by 11. So this word, okay, the lines in between, let me go back and show you. The lines in between the letters here are very thin. So your Cricut's gonna slice it to oblivion. I've tried different settings in different ways. I haven't found a great setting yet. I'm sure there's probably one that can apply less pressure maybe to cut that out, but then you also have to glue it down. And with something this thin and delicate, it's much easier when you already have the adhesive. So I am cutting this on black vinyl. But yeah, I mean, if you choose to make this a huge cross, like if you wanted to make this a 12 by 24-ish cross, then by all means do it. And this font might actually work at that size. But for this font in particular, it's not thick enough. So when you're looking at Cricut fonts, you want to be using ones that are a little bit thicker or bolder that will cut better. So yeah, so you cut out your files and you'll put them aside, and I'll show you how to put it all together. Okay, let's put this thing together. So I've got all of my layers here. Layer 5, layer 4, layer 3, layer 2, and layer 1. Now, I couldn't decide between the green and the yellow, so I've doubled up layer 1 here. You're gonna see 6 layers, but the file only has 5. I just chose to double it up because I actually really liked the green tint, and I think just having that little bit extra is gonna make this cross pop just a little bit more. That was a personal choice by me, but feel free to use only the 5 layers. You'll see what I mean here. This is just with the 5 layers. It's nice and pink, which is nice and sweet as well. But with the extra green, it just gives it a little bit more pop. So let's put that together. So you can kind of get a preview of what that's gonna look like. Yeah, just a little bit pop, see? So I'm gonna use the green layer, but feel free to only use 5. And then we've got our ribbon here. So it's 2 pieces. We've got the lighter piece on top and then the shading piece on back. And I've got my blessed wording here cut on my vinyl, and some of that came off when it was cut. So the first thing I'm going to do is weed this out, okay? And we're going to put that onto our banner. So let's get that done. All right. I think that looks pretty good, huh? Now, let's assemble our cross. So you always want to start with the bottom layer, and the key here is to put your attachment on the layer going on top, okay? So I've got some adhesive squares here. I've used some for previous projects. I've got some adhesive squares here that I'm going to use to layer this. Yeah, let's get it together. All right. Now, the easy way to do this is just to glue this down like this, but I want to give it a little bit more dimension. So pick a layer. I'm gonna do this one here. Just do the one. Just gonna do the one layer. And I'm just going to add some foam squares to this to get this glued down. There we go. I just realized that I forgot to add a foam square here underneath. You gotta position that. And there we go. I think it looks pretty good. We have our 3D dimension ribbon. We've got our 6 layers on this one. I think it turned out pretty good. If you liked this video, please subscribe. And yeah. If you like this video, please subscribe. I will be creating lots more great stuff with my Cricut. And please let me know in the comments if there's anything that you would like to see. All right? Thanks so much for watching. See you next time.